A one-year extension of the Affordable Care Act tax credits is not acceptable. It's a non-starter.
So, Leader Jeffries, what changed?
You want to get something that has actually done, you need to do something that will have bipartisanship.
You can ask me the question. You can ask me the question. I'll provide the answer.
Answer the question instead of going back.
I'll provide the answer. No.
Let me be completely honest with you right now. There's nothing more entertaining in American politics than watching a politician get caught in their own words. And I mean caught red-handed on camera with receipts that go back just a few weeks. That's exactly what's been happening to House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. And the best part is that it's not even coming from his political opponents. The mainstream media, his supposed allies, are the ones putting him through the ringer. We're talking about Morning Joe. We're talking about CNBC, outlets that have traditionally given Democrats the softest of softball interviews. But something has changed, and now even they can't ignore the glaring contradictions coming out of Jeffries' mouth. If you're new here, this channel is all about breaking down political debates and exposing the moments that really matter. We just launched, and if you believe that truth isn't partisan and that politicians on both sides deserve scrutiny, then smash that subscribe button and hit the like, because this one is going to be good. So here's the setup. Hakeem Jeffries, the face of House Democrats, went on television and said with complete confidence that a one-year extension of the Affordable Care Act tax credits was, and I quote, not acceptable, and a non-starter. That's pretty definitive language, right? When someone says something is a non-starter, they're drawing a line in the sand. They're telling you, this is where I stand, and I'm not moving. Fast forward just a few weeks, and Chuck Schumer proposes exactly that, a one-year extension of Obamacare subsidies. And what does Hakeem do? He supports it. Just like that, the non-starter became the starting point. The unacceptable became perfectly acceptable. And when he got called out on it, the mental gymnastics that followed were absolutely Olympic level. Now, Jeffries tried to explain himself by saying that the October proposal he rejected came from rank-and-file House Republicans and was immediately shot down by Republican leadership. But the Schumer proposal, according to him, was different because it was offered in good faith and included a path toward bipartisan negotiations for a multi-year extension. But wait a minute.
Well, Leader Jeffries, Senate Democratic Leader Chuck Schumer did make a new offer, effectively saying, let's extend Obamacare subsidies for 1 year in exchange for reopening the government for 1 year. You have said that you would support that proposal, but just last month you said this. Take a look.
A one-year extension of the Affordable Care Act tax credits is not acceptable. It's a non-starter. It's a non-starter.
So, Leader Jeffries, what changed?
Well, the proposal that I was making reference to in October was something that was floated out there by a handful of rank-and-file House Republicans, and that was immediately rejected by House Republican leadership because they have no interest in driving down the high cost of living for everyday Americans. The Schumer proposal, of course, was offered in good faith. It's both a one-year extension of the Affordable Care Act tax credits, and the Schumer proposal also provides a path toward bipartisan negotiations for a multi-year extension, which will provide the type of certainty that the American people need.
Let's actually think about this for a second. If your problem with the first proposal was the one-year timeline, and you called it a non-starter because of that timeline, then how does the same timeline suddenly become acceptable just because Chuck Schumer is the one offering it? The math doesn't change. The policy doesn't change. The only thing that changed is who's putting their name on it. That's not principled leadership. That's political convenience wrapped in talking points. And here's where it gets even more interesting. This whole Obamacare situation has become a real problem for Democrats, and you can tell because even their friendliest media allies are starting to ask tough questions. The hosts of Morning Joe, who have never exactly been hostile territory for the left, straight up asked Jeffries about the systemic failures of the healthcare system. They pointed out that even with these tax credits, premiums are exploding under Obamacare. Private healthcare premiums are exploding. Coverage denials are multiplying. The system, as they put it, is failing the American people. And what was Hakeem's response? Essentially, it was more of the same. Throw more money at the problem and hope it fixes itself. He talked about an all-out assault on healthcare and a Republican healthcare crisis, but he never actually addressed the structural issues that were raised. It's the political equivalent of someone asking you why your car keeps breaking down and you responding by yelling at the mechanic instead of fixing the engine. But here's the thing that really gets me. These enhanced Obamacare subsidies that Democrats are now fighting tooth and nail to extend. They were created by Democrats. The expiration date at the end of 2025, that was set by Democrats. So explain to me how this is a Republican healthcare crisis when your own party designed the system with a built-in expiration date and then decided not to make it permanent when they had the chance. This is like setting your house on fire and then blaming your neighbor for not putting it out fast enough. The logic just doesn't track, and I think people are starting to notice, which is why we're seeing these increasingly testy exchanges on cable news.
Leader Jeffries, though, even with those tax credits, premiums are exploding. And they'll be exploding under Obamacare. They'll be exploding in private health care. I mean, at what point are we going to sit down and figure out a systemic approach that actually is sustainable? Because we're not in it now. And again, even with those tax credits, the Obamacare premiums explode. Even worse, private health care premiums explode. Denials of coverage, multiplying. This system is failing the American people, and it's only going to get worse. What are we going to do?
So this has been an all-out assault on the health care of the American people, and the system was already broken because of some of the dynamics that you've referenced. And so, yes, we've said we want to sit down and find a bipartisan path forward to actually address the Republican health care crisis and create a system that enables everyday Americans to be able to go see a doctor when they need one. This is the wealthiest country in the history of the world.
The most revealing moment came during Hakeem's appearance on CNBC's Squawk Box with Becky Quick. Now, Becky is a sharp interviewer, and she wasn't having any of Jeffries' talking points. She laid out the simple math. There are 218 votes needed in the House to pass legislation. Democrats have 214 members. That means they only need 4 Republicans to sign on. If Democrats really wanted to get something done, why not start with a 1-year or 2-year extension that could actually attract bipartisan support? It's a completely reasonable question, and Jeffries absolutely could not handle it. He kept trying to pivot back to past proposals, past negotiations, anything to avoid addressing the current political reality. At one point, Becky literally had to cut him off and remind him to answer the actual question being asked. And then came the moment that made this whole interview legendary. Becky said out loud what everyone watching at home was probably thinking. She suggested that maybe, just maybe, Democrats don't actually want to get a deal done. Maybe they would prefer to see healthcare rates go higher so they can use it as a campaign issue against Republicans. And let me tell you, Hakeem Jeffries lost it. He called it a ridiculous assertion and literally said, "Shame on you," to Becky Quick on live television. Shame on you for asking a completely valid question about political motivations. The reaction told you everything you needed to know. When someone gets that defensive, that quickly, over a question about strategy, it usually means the question hit a little too close to home.
It's important context to make me realize that I don't think you want to get a deal done. I think this is something where you'd like to see the rates go higher and allow the Republicans to hang themselves with that. Is that the answer?
That's absolutely a ridiculous assertion. And really, shame
3 years
on you
is not going to get passed, so what do you do?
Shame on you for saying that. Because we're fighting. It's not a partisan issue for us. In fact, the states that are most impacted as it relates to an Affordable Care Act tax credit expiration are all Republican states. We're talking about West Virginia, Wyoming, Alaska, Mississippi, right? Tennessee. Over and over and over again, we can go through the list. That's why you probably have some Republicans who would sign on if you guys could come up with something that actually looks like a bipartisan deal. Listen, this is not a partisan fight for us. It's a patriotic fight. We're fighting for every constituent, even if Republicans aren't necessarily fighting for their own constituent. We want to find a bipartisan path forward. And that is what we've repeatedly indicated we want to do. Like, we want to sit down and have a reasonable discussion, find common ground.
Think about it from a purely political standpoint. If you're the party out of power and healthcare costs are skyrocketing under the current administration's watch, that's not a problem for you. That's a campaign commercial. That's a talking point you can use for years. Republicans, let your premiums explode. Republicans, let these subsidies expire. Vote for us and we'll fix it. It's simple, it's effective, and it works especially well on voters who don't follow the day-to-day details of of Washington negotiations. The last thing you want in that scenario is an actual bipartisan compromise that solves the problem, because then you lose your issue, you lose your fundraising hook, you lose your ability to point fingers. And I think Becky Quick understood that, which is why she asked the question, and I think Hakeem Jeffries understood that she understood, which is why he absolutely freaked out. Now, let's talk about Hakeem Jeffries himself for a second, because this pattern of behavior didn't start with Obamacare. When he first became House Minority Leader back in 2022, a political science professor at Brown University made a pretty astute observation. He said that Jeffries is not going to have his own agenda. He's going to shepherd other people's agendas through. And boy, has that prediction aged like fine wine. We've seen it with his reluctance to endorse Kamala Harris until it became clear which way the wind was blowing. We've seen it with his sudden concern about inflation after years of praising Bidenomics. And now we're seeing it with Obamacare, where he can call something a non-starter one month and then fully embrace it the next, depending on who's offering the proposal. This isn't leadership, this is weather vane politics. You stick your finger in the air, figure out which way the wind is blowing, and then pretend that's where you were pointing all along. And we haven't even talked about the fraud.
You need 218 votes in the House in order to pass that. You've got 214 members in the Democratic caucus. So you only need 4 House Republicans to have to sign onto it to get this passed. This is something that you want to satiate. If you want to get done, you are going to need at least some Republicans to come over. Why not start with a 1-year extension or potentially even a 2-year extension?
Well, Leader Schumer offered a 1-year extension in the context of trying to end the Trump Republican shutdown.
Yeah, but that's different. But I'm talking about what you have now. Let's not go back to what's done in the past and what has not been extended. If you want to get something that has actually done, you need to do something that will have bipartisan.
You can ask me the question. You can ask me the question. I'll provide the answer.
Answer the question instead of going back.
I'll provide the answer. No. I'm providing an answer in order to provide context. Republicans have repeatedly refused to take yes for an answer. It was a very reasonable multi-year extension that was offered. It was a 1-year straight extension plus a multi-year process through a bipartisan commission to more permanently resolve the Affordable Care Act issue. So having that context is absolutely important, regardless of what you may think.
Fraud problem yet. Multiple reports have documented massive fraud within the Obamacare program. The verification process is so weak that the same Social Security numbers have been reused over and over again. In one particularly egregious case, a single Social Security number was tied to 125 different policies in 2023 alone. 125 policies on one Social Security number. That's not a glitch. That's a systemic failure. And yet, when Democrats talk about health they never mention fixing these problems. They never talk about strengthening verification or rooting out fraud. They just want more money, more subsidies, more of the same policies that created these problems in the first place. It's like trying to fill a bucket that has holes in the bottom. You can keep pouring water in, but until you fix the holes, you're never gonna solve the problem. This whole saga really captures where modern American politics has landed. The incentive structure has completely shifted. Our elected officials aren't actually trying to negotiate and deliver results for regular Americans anymore. They're chasing moments. A sharp line here, a viral clip there, something that plays well on social media and looks good in fundraising emails. The goal isn't to solve problems. The goal is to look like you're fighting while making sure the other side looks worse. And if actual people get hurt in the process, well, that's just collateral damage in the pursuit of political power. We've got a Congress that talks a lot, spends plenty, and delivers very little for the people actually paying the bills. And Hakeem Jeffries is a perfect example of this new breed of politician. He's not offering solutions, he's offering sound bites. He's not building consensus, he's manufacturing outrage. The fact that mainstream media outlets are finally starting to hold him accountable is genuinely encouraging. For too long, political interviews have been exercises in letting politicians filibuster their way through tough questions without ever actually answering them. But when you have hosts on Morning Joe questioning whether Obamacare actually works, and anchors on CNBC calling out the political games being played with healthcare policy, that's a sign that maybe the tide is turning. People are tired of being treated like they're stupid. They can see when a politician says one thing and then does another. They can tell when someone is more interested in winning the news cycle than actually solving problems. So where does this leave us? Honestly, it leaves us in a pretty frustrating place. Healthcare costs are going up, the system is broken, politicians on both sides are more interested in scoring points than fixing things, and the American people are stuck in the middle, watching watching their premiums rise while their representatives argue about who's to blame. But here's the silver lining. These moments of accountability matter. When Hakeem Jeffries gets grilled on his contradictions, when his talking points get challenged in real time, when someone like Becky has the courage to ask the uncomfortable questions, it chips away at the facade. It reminds everyone that these politicians work for us, not the other way around. I want to hear what you think about all of this. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Democrats actually want to solve the healthcare crisis, or are they content to use it as a campaign issue? Are you surprised to see mainstream media finally pushing back on the talking points? Let me know. And if you made it this far in the video, do me a favor and hit that like button. It really helps the channel grow. Subscribe if you haven't already, because we're going to keep breaking down these political moments and holding both sides accountable. Remember, the truth isn't partisan, and neither are we. Keep thinking, keep questioning, and I'll see you in the next one.